Hey, what's up everyone, Morey Croson here, and we have another new breakdown for you today. It's going to be a comparison video of Andre de Grasse and Justin Gatlin, two of the top sprinters in the world, and two guys I think we can learn a lot about in terms of overall stride efficiency and really being able to maximize their turnover. I think they're two excellent sprinters that have great overall form, and I think it's going to be a great comparison video here. As always, if you like the video, like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up button below. That really helps us out a lot. And then if you have any questions or anything like that, you can leave us a comment down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're gonna go ahead and hop into the video right now. All right, so this video is from a couple years ago. We have Andre de Grasse here on the left, and we have Justin Gatlin here on the right. And what really stands out to me from the beginning and the initial action is I really like Andre de Grasse's start and how he gets out there. I think he does a great job with those first couple steps, getting himself going. Obviously, Justin Gatlin is one of the top overall sprinters, one of the top overall starters. He does kind of get behind here in those first few steps, but then he does a great job during that acceleration phase, where it looks like Andre de Grasse kind of loses it in his kind of acceleration phase. So as he gets up and tries to get going, he kind of slows his feet down a little bit. He doesn't have as good of an acceleration phase as Justin Gatlin. Watch how Justin Gatlin is really smooth with all of his steps and getting that really quick turnover, gets his legs going really quickly there, in comparison to Andre de Grasse. And watching him this time, see how he gets going, and then he loses his quickness there for a couple steps, and that ends up being a big thing that impacts him in that initial acceleration phase, and just shows that overall Andre de Grasse has some areas that he can continue to improve on. I'm sure he's currently working on it, and it might just be this individual race. That's what's so amazing about these track starts, is every single race there is a wide variety of different things that can go wrong, and just being able to stay as composed and focused as you possibly can to make sure that you're able to run the best run that you possibly can every single time. It is something that is very, very special that these guys are able to accomplish those feats. Now, once we get into this part of the race around, you can notice that Justin Gatlin is a little bit out in front with like his strides, right? So you can see like here, just from a timing perspective, looking at how Justin Gatlin's kind of bringing that foot out in front and then coming back underneath. Same type of thing here, bringing that foot out in front. So we're kind of gonna compare the timing with Justin Gatlin, where his leg is in comparison to Andre de Grasse. You could obviously see that Justin Gatlin has a slight lead overall due to that acceleration phase. And what happens here is that Andre de Grasse starts to catch up with his legs. So notice how we're seeing the stride and how Andre de Grasse is slowly starting to catch him here. It's getting closer where their feet are about to land at about the same time now, right? So before these other steps here, notice how he's out in front. They're obviously different legs. So for Justin Gatlin, it's his right leg. For Andre de Grasse, it's his left leg. Now it's right and left opposites again, right? But see how he's starting to catch up. And now by, I think this one, they hit at about the same time with their opposite feet, right? And so what that shows is just how fast of a turnover Andre de Grasse has, and it was, I did the math already, where it's down to like a 0.32, 0.33 in terms of how fast he's getting his legs going. Now he's 5'9", right? And Justin Gatlin 6'1", and so that's something that really is important for Andre de Grasse, is being able to really maximize that ability to turn those legs over fast. And I think he also does a really unique job of having a super fast contact time. It's like as soon as his foot touches the ground, he's immediately right back up. It almost like limits his extension. He doesn't get as much extension with the leg back behind him. I almost feel like he can maybe improve with his front side mechanics, but then you also think about it, and it's like he's so good with being able to drive that knee up and through, and just has such amazing front side mechanics where he basically lands with his feet, with his legs completely straight there. He also does a great job of being able to really create a lot of force as that foot's coming down, so that makes it so he can immediately push back off. So he has such a low contact time that it's like, how can you give up a little bit of the backside mechanics, improving the backside mechanics in order to and still keep some of those unique, beautiful parts of his frontside mechanics? I don't know exactly, but what I'm doing with this breakdown for is to just show you what makes Andre de Grasse so great in terms of his frontside mechanics and his ability to, again, land and create all that force right before that foot touches the ground. That's critical. It's critical in being able to really sprint fast. It's being able to generate force with your foot out in front. There's a huge difference between the athletes that I work with who are able to get that really nice front side mechanic, get an understanding of what that looks like, and be able to actually implement that in their run in comparison to the guys that don't and have a hard time with that. So that's a very, very important part of your overall sprinting. Now, Justin Gatlin, I think he's a little bit more of the opposite, where you can see with him, he does a great job of getting that extension. He has a lot of strength in his lower body, a lot of strength in his hamstrings. Not to say that Andre de Grasse doesn't. You can just tell by the size of the legs that Justin Gatlin is a lot stronger of an overall person in the lower body, and can really maximize his ability to push off. You can even see it with his body. He has a little bit more of a forward lean as he's running, and definitely allows his feet to get back behind him. The thing that's unique about him is he's just able to drive those legs through very, very quickly. He lands with his feet a little bit more out in front of him than like Andre de Grasse does, but that also allows him to generate a little bit more force as he's pushing off. So he's going to end up being a lot more of a horizontal type of a runner, where Andre de Grasse is going to be a little bit more like a vertical type of runner. Obviously, these guys are elite, so you wouldn't say that Justin Gatlin is not running at all vertical, because he obviously is. But if you're going to compare some of the elite guys, you have Justin Gatlin, who is definitely going a little bit more on the horizontal side, and then you have Andre de Grasse, who's definitely more on the vertical side, and being able to really utilize that vertical force and being able to get a fast turnover, where Justin Gatlin does a great job of really pushing off and making that being the main point of where he's able to maximize his turnover speed, and his overall power production is going to be from being able to get his legs moving very, very quickly, and being able to, again, push off and get a lot of extension out of the hips, glutes, lower back, and really have a lot of range of motion within the hip flexor. So it's a very different type of run. When you're working your backside mechanics, you got to be able to push off, create a lot of force there, and then still be able to drive the knees forward and be able to do that very, very quickly. So it becomes a lot about how fast and how strong are your hip flexors, and that stretch shortening cycle of the hip flexors, where somebody like Andre de Grasse, what he really wants to be able to do is maximize his ability to activate those like upper hamstring muscles, so he can pull the leg back down underneath, and really being able to stay very functionally active within the core, and making sure that he's not losing too much side to side movement within the core. So that allows him to be a lot more vertical overall. So again, obviously these guys need to be strong in all the areas, but just kind of focusing on where they have some unique differences and some things that make it so they can play to their body type. I think it's an important thing to recognize. If you're somebody that's a little bit more lean, and stays a little bit more straight up when running, really building up that core and being able to build up those upper hamstrings is critical. Where if you're somebody that is not as lean, a little bit thicker, and uses a little bit more of like the hamstring and has that slight forward lean in the body, then you really have to build up that stretch shortening cycle within the hip flexors, which is a unique thing to be able to build up and have plenty of range of motion through there, and also be able to have plenty of strength through there, and then also being able to have a lot of range of motion within the lower back, a lot of strength within like the glutes, and those muscles are going to be super important for you if you end up being a little bit more horizontal, a little bit more lean forward when you run. All right, I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps you guys. I would say too, somebody that might be a little more of like a football player trying to run a fast 40, I would probably recommend more of a Justin Gatlin type of a run, where you're really leaning forward when you're going. If you can make changes to your mechanics, then I would recommend that. Obviously, it's going to be different for everybody. If you're somebody that has always run more like a Andre de Grasse, and I would say you don't want to necessarily change it to be like a Justin Gatlin. But if you're younger and able to make those changes, or maybe thinking, oh, I need to be more like Andre de Grasse because of whatever the case may be, being more upright or whatever, I'd say that it does depend a lot on the body type, and make sure that you have a good understanding of your body type and fit the mold that will end up being the best for you and your overall performance. All right. As always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. I hope this ends up being very, very valuable, very helpful for you. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to hear from you. I have a bunch of links down below for how you can reach out to me. And also, we have a couple different programs that are currently available if you're looking to, get a little bit faster, improve your speed overall. I think our programs are the best for improving overall speed mechanics, and how you can do that effectively, efficiently, and very, very quickly. So, yeah, as always, thanks for watching these videos, and we'll talk to you soon.